This is a new journey of Kawasaki 250 Ninja, and I picked this up for a very good price. I'm not gonna tell you because some people will be upset, but yeah, I saw it posted on Facebook Marketplace, messaged the person, picked it up within like 4 or 5 hours, and it's in very good shape for what it is. It's a 2001, and the battery was completely dead. There's no oil in it. I found out the hard way that it was missing the oil drain plug when I put some oil in it just to get it to crank. It's got some, you know, to be expected dirt on it, and some tape residue I got to get off with some alcohol. A little bit of surface rust. Only has about 5,000 miles on it, or less than 5,000 miles on it. Looks really good. Only cosmetic. Now it's got a crack here, and it's got a crack over there, but for what I paid for it, I can't beat it. I can't. So it is in really good shape. Just needs a little cosmetic work. There were squirrels in the airbox, and I'll show you a picture of what the airbox looked like. Anyway, but yeah, I vacuumed it out. It was full of acorns. What I'm doing now, got a new battery. I'll put a new battery in it. I got some an oil filter. I'm gonna change the oil filter, fill it back up with oil, put the battery in, and we'll get her started and go from there. That's what it looks like. Let me give you a flyby of the before. It is a diamond in the rough. Alrighty. Alright, here's the old air filter. I cut out the middle, and I just used the stuff that I had, aircraft washing pads. I just cut out an outline of it, and I'm going to use this as a spacer, and we'll see if that works. Alright, here she goes. She runs. Problem is, you're leaking like a sieve. So, yeah, carbs are gonna have to come out. Bummer. Yeah, I'm gonna have to drain the gas out of it. But at least it runs, so that's a start. Got the carbs out. It was a struggle, and so I gotta find out where the leak is coming from. So I gotta clean up the carbs. Might as well check the bowls, make sure that they're clean, make sure the jets are clear. I gotta blow all the gunk out of here. But so far that's the worst of it. Oh, the petcock was leaking, so I ordered a new petcock. I ordered a new rebuild kit for the carbs, so that's where we're at right now. Everything else works though, so far. That's what I thought. The bowl looks really clean, given the condition, but the gasket has just shrunk down below the fitment, so that's where all the leaks are coming from. See, you can't even see the gasket above that rim. So good thing I ordered a reback kit. It'll be here Monday or Tuesday, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take this apart and take the bowls apart, clean them, clean the jets. They look really good. given the circumstances. But yeah, might as well, while I got it out, get her cleaned up. Yep, it was so brittle that the O-ring or gasket rubber seal broke when I tried to pull it out. I knew it was going to, so now I'm gonna take my scribe here and pick all that gunk out and put it in the ultrasonic cleaner just to make it look a little more presentable. More fun. When I pulled the float out to check the float needle, the tip is completely gone. I don't know if it's disintegrated or what. I couldn't find it inside the carb, but it's supposed to have that little black rubber tip, and this thing looks pretty bad. So when my rebuild kit comes in, I'll definitely have to replace those. The other issue I found when I pulled the #1 plug out was that it was almost just hand tight. So I just stuck the socket into #2 cylinder and see how tight it is. I'm guessing it's gonna be pretty much the same, so I'm just gonna, let's see here. Yep. Look at that. Just barely, it was just barely tight. And I noticed that the plug was also very dark, like it was running rich. So let me pull the plug out and I'll show you. And there it is. Yeah, it was running rich. So very much black. And I'm guessing that gap is too small. I actually had to re-gap the other one to 30 thousandths. I think it was about 25 thousandths. So I'm gonna clean this up and re-gap it. All right, this is set to 30 thousandths, and I can't get it in there. So the gap is actually set too small, and it was black, meaning it was running rich. So let me open the gap up a little bit. Get it in there. And there you go, 30 thousandths. Good to go now. Here's the piston from the rear brake, one of the pistons anyway. It's pretty gummed up, and the reason why I took it out is both the front brake and the rear brake would stick when you apply the brakes, and so in order to move the bike after you put the brakes on, you had to literally take the calipers off. And what I found from the interweb was that it's set for so long that it developed some crud, and that's why it won't retract after you release the brake. So I'm pulling and plus the the fluid is pretty bad. It's supposed to be clear, but it's gone yeller. So I'm pulling both pistons out, checking the calipers, checking the housing, cleaning it out, and I'll pull the other piston out. It's pretty bad. So I'll clean them up. I got a brass brush, and I'm gonna polish it up with some Brasso just to get it smooth, and then get it back together. Just using a little WD-40 here. There, and I got a brass brush. Just like that. Got all that crud off there. I'll get that off too. But that's what I'm doing. That's what the cleaned up piston looks like. It's still got a couple of marks on it, but more better than it used to be. So I'm gonna put this piston back in and hold it down with, well, I'll clean that out, but I'll hold it down with the C-clamp and then pump the brake to get that piston back out. and I'll have to run some fresh fluid in there to flush the old fluid out anyway. So that's the next episode, or that's the next evolution in cleaning this thing out. Here's the second piston. It's pretty crusty too along the top there, so I'm gonna clean it the same way I did the other one, get it back together, and should be working mighty fine. Alright, the carbs are definitely out of tune. It was way worse than this, so I'm going to dial it to where it's they're even. Alright, that's about as good as it's going to get. That's about as good as it's going to get. Maybe a little bit better. Yep, that's good. Alright. She's done. Got it all cleaned and tuned. So let's take her for a ride. Brakes work. Woo, it's a little chilly. I think I got a little vacuum leak. Have to go check it out. So yes, I did fix the idle vacuum leak, and it's running good. So, no vacuum leak. So here's how much I spent so far getting it to runnable condition. I got a new petcock, but I got they sent me the wrong one. It's supposed to be sitting right here, but I had to trim the tab off to get it to fit underneath. I got a repack kit for the carbs. What else did I spend money on? Oh, new battery, and I think that's about, I don't know, I put it on screen here. But yeah, I'm gonna order new front sprocket, new back sprocket, and get a little better gas mileage out of it. It's a high revving bike, so you'll see in this short clip here that it runs about 6,500 RPMs at 50 miles an hour, which isn't bad. But yeah, it's a high revving bike. I like to get it maybe down to 5 for 50. But yeah, I've watched videos where they've changed the front and back sprocket and reduced it by 2,000 RPM, so maybe 4,000 RPM at 50 miles an hour in 6th gear. But yeah, it's got a lot of low-end torque, which is nice for a sport bike, but I'm going to use it as a commuter, and it's not going to be too bad. It's not going to take too much torque away from it, but that's up and coming. So there you go, my back to life Kawasaki 250 Ninja. All right, give you a flyby. take her on the road and see how she performs. Here is how you fix the idle from lagging. So the primary reason the idle hangs is because you probably have a vacuum leak somewhere. Now, if the bike's been running fine and all of a sudden the idle starts hanging, it probably means you have a vacuum leak. Now I'm going to recreate a vacuum leak. Here's my vacuum hose off the head side of the carburetor, and it goes to the petcock, but I've removed the this actuates the fuel release in the petcock, but I've taken it off because I don't have a vacuum petcock right now. I'll show you what it runs, what it sounds like, the way it's supposed to run. So, no vacuum leak. Take the screw out. And now you have a vacuum leak. And notice it's going to bog too, because you're sucking too much air. So the way I've seen people check for vacuum leaks is you get some carb cleaner while it's running, and then you spray around some suspect areas. And when the RPMs go up, that is the general location of your vacuum leak. And then it could be a cracked hose, it could be a hose that fell off, or it could be any other, you know, could be your air box or something. But usually it's going to be after the on the engine side of the carburetors where your vacuum leaks causes that hanging idle. So now let's put the thing back in. I've secured my vacuum leak. Back to normal. So the key is, step one, make sure your carbs are tuned like this. All right, that's about as good as it's gonna get. Step two, if you don't have a tuner, you can bench tune or bench synchronize. And there's a lot of videos on how to bench synchronize. Basically, you want the butterflies to open at the same gap. Basically, the gap on if you have a 4-cylinder, all 4 butterflies have to open the same amount, and on a dual carb they have to also open at the same amount. And so you can bench sync those. And I tell you, this this carb tuner only cost like $105, and it was worth every penny. So definitely invest in that if you're going to spend money in keeping your bike in shape. So that's step 2. Step 3, you want, when it's at idle, you want the butterflies to be as closed as possible. So when you release the throttle, the butterflies close all the way down, and it returns to you know, warm idle. When it's cold, obviously you want a high idle to warm up the engine. But so when you release the throttle, you want the idle to come down, just like this. This is how it's supposed to be. See how fast it drops? So the combination you need is the idle screw to be out as far as possible, and then at that point you want to adjust your fuel air mixture screws. Once you get it tuned, then you can start playing with air fuel mixture screws. And this tool right here is $20. And what I did was I put tape with numbers and a mark so I can tell how many revolutions I've turned it, right? So if I start at 4 and I go all the way around, 1 round revolution back to 4, that's 1 revolution. And it's just got a straight slot on there. And here is, your motorcycle might be different. I've got longer air fuel mixture screws, but let me see if I can, right here, my fingertip right there is where my air fuel mixture screw is. And different motorcycles will have different adjustments. They say, some specs will say 2.5. I have a motorcycle repair friend who says start at 3.5, and it seems to work. This particular needle, air fuel mixture needle on this bike, is a 2001 Ninja 250. It is set to, I think, 6, and that's not because it's running rich, it's just the way the needle is set up. And I've got new needles. There's usually an O-ring, and I've got like a smaller O-ring, so that brings the needle closer to close, so I need to back it up further to get enough fuel in there while it's idling. So to recap why your idle hangs: 1, check for vacuum leaks. If the bike's been running fine and it starts to hang, that's probably what it is, a vacuum leak. 2, if you've cleaned your carbs and you know, you've reset the jets and stuff, make sure you do a bench sync before you put it back in the bike. Get you, if you really want to get it running at the top condition, get you a carb tune or one of the, I've tried the gauges, they suck. This carb tune set is well worth the money. So tune your carbs, make sure they're synced. 3rd, make sure your idle screw is as far out as possible without it dying. And then 4, check your fuel air mixture screws and make sure that you know, they're at peak performance. There's a video, I'll link it below, of a guy who shows where if you have it at idle and it's still kind of bogging, you want to slowly increase, right, back out that air fuel mixture screw until the RPM start to go up. If they don't do anything, there's something wrong with that carb. But where it starts to go up, crank it to where it starts to go back down, and then bring it back in to where, you know, it's at the peak RPM, and then you can back out your idle screw some more. It's going to be a little bit of you know, trial and error if you have more than one carburetor, but that's how you fix a hanging idle. Hope that helps. Later. I'm getting ready to replace the front sprocket of my 2001 Kawasaki Ninja 250, and this is a 15 tooth sprocket, and stock is a 14 tooth sprocket. And I'll roll in some clips of me determining what the different speeds are and RPMs with the old sprocket, but come to find out there is a gear ratio speed chart, and I'll roll those in here now. So that establishes the baseline of where the RPMs and different gears and different speeds are on this bike. So what I'm going to do, and there's one for this 15 tooth sprocket too. I'm also going to put a 38 tooth sprocket in the back, but what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to start with the front sprocket because it's easiest. The back sprocket, of course, you got to take the wheel off and stuff like that, so I'll do that a different day. So this involves loosening the back axle and then loosening the adjusters. I'm going to mark where the original location of the rear wheel is, and make sure that the chain tension is right. And then I want to take the cover off and take the sprocket off. There's quite a few videos out there on how to do it, but I think they're on newer Kawasaki 250s. So that's why I'm making this video. So here we go. Okay, first I'm going to loosen this cotter key. Okay, right there, the notch is on the almost the third line back from the front of the bike. Let's see here, just like that. So that's where I'm going to return it to. The nut is, I believe, 24 millimeters. I don't have a 24 millimeter, but a 15/16 socket will work. So you just want to loosen it and then back these out. Alright, you gotta take this off to make room to pull the panel off. I believe these are all 10 millimeter screws or bolts or whatever. So this is 10 millimeter also. So here we go. It doesn't seem like it's 10 millimeter. Oh, yeah, it is. And it's got to come all the way out. There we go. And I always put it back so I don't lose it. Long one goes up top. Long one goes on the bottom. Short one goes here. Okay, there are no more screws holding this on, but I believe it's just so gunked up in there that I'm gonna have to do a little wiggling to get it out. Alright, yeah, I just took some wiggling to get this thing off, and look at that. It's pretty nasty. Yeah, the chain is actually dragging through all the muck, so I'll definitely have to clean that out. Sprocket doesn't look too bad. There's an acorn here. So yeah, I have to clean all that out after I get the sprocket out. Okay, what I did was I had to go to the other side, put the rear brake on. It's held on by this retainer and two little 8 millimeter bolts. So put the brake on, undid the bolts, took this little retainer clip out, and it should come right out. And I got the chain loose. You should be able to just slide this out like so. And then remember the little lip there, bore, goes on the inside. So here's the new one. So that bore is going to go on the inside. Some people say to grease it up, so I might do that, but let me clean this up before I put on the new sprocket. Okay, I cleaned it up. Got a little bit of grease on there. And yes, it is high temperature wheel bearing, whatever, grease. Just use it a little sparingly. I know there's a video that says use molybdenum disulfide. I have some, I'm just too lazy to look for it. But yeah, don't overthink things, you know. There we go. There we go. Let's see. I'm probably gonna have to move the tire a little bit more because the sprocket is a little bit bigger. So let me do that. Okay, I got the back tire moved forward enough to put the new sprocket in. I had to move it quite a bit, probably about, I don't know, half an inch. So, alright, so let me tap her in there, give her a good wipe, retainer back in, smack it in a little bit more. There we go. And then once I get it snug down, I have to go on the other side, put the back brake on, and tighten it down. So let me do that. Okay. Not saying you should do this. I use the old German torque, good and tight. But if you want to, you probably should consult your user manual or repair manual and find out what the actual torque specification is. But I loosened it and noticed how tight it was when I loosened it, so I just kind of did the reverse. So putting it back together is the reverse of taking it apart. There's a little locating pins or locating collars here, and I think that's what is kind of stuck on there. And there's one down here where my finger is. So they go in that recess there, and there's a recess down here that those things go in. And this is the gear indicator, how many gears you have. So if you have a motorcycle, you know how many gears it has. There's a little information casting in there. So 1 down, 6 or 5 up. Alright. There. Yeah, it was just so full of grime that it was hard to get out, so tap tap. You'll notice I'm just putting them in hand tight to make sure that they're threaded. You don't want to tighten just 1 down. You want to thread them all in, hand tighten them, and then just kind of snug each one down a little bit at a time. And being just a dust cover, I just make it snug because you don't want to strip out the transmission casing. Just like that. That's about as tight as you want it. Alright, let's put it back on there. Maybe I'll go there a little bit. If I don't like it, I can always change it. There we go. And again, this has a kind of a pressure closure on it, so you just need to get it snug. You don't have to wrench it down too tight. And that's it for that side. There's plenty of videos on how to do the back tire adjustment, so I'll just cut this video off here. So yeah, hope that helps somebody. Later. Okay, this video is going to show you how to change the back sprocket of a Ninja 250 from a 45 tooth to a 38 tooth. But before I show you the video and before you start, know that you will need to get a new chain because it's maxed out. I put the new sprocket, 38 tooth sprocket, on here, and there's just too much slop in the original chain, and you can't take the original chain off without being able to put it back on because it doesn't have a master link. So just know that before you go in. So here's a video of me changing the sprocket. I've already replaced the front sprocket, so I'm going to replace the back sprocket. It's I believe it's a 45 tooth one, and I'm changing it to a 38 tooth one to get a little bit better gas mileage. So here's a chart of what the 14 front, 45 back RPMs versus mileage looks like. And here's what the front sprocket changed to 15, keeping the 45 tooth in the back, looks like. So now I'm going to change the back sprocket to 38. I don't know if there's a chart for that, but we'll see what the miles per RPM per gear looks like after I put this on. So it's pretty straightforward. You take the cotter pin out of the castle nut here. I've got a center stand, otherwise you can use a motorcycle stand, rear wheel stand. Be careful, there's spacers on both sides on the inside. So I'm going to get a screwdriver or maybe a socket extension and a hammer, and just tap the axle bolt out. Doesn't have to be a big hammer. Yeah. I don't lose those. There we go. Yeah, leave these there. Yeah, I just take them out. Just take these out and clean them. Now that you've got the axle bolt out, you want to push the wheel forward and pull the chain off the sprocket. So, and then roll the wheel back. Right. There we go. Alright. And you want to take these bolts off. 14mm. Smack it. There we go. Oops. Yeah, here's your spacer. So definitely don't lose that. And this whole thing lifts up, by the way, so you don't want to mess with that. Don't try to lift it off. Alright, let me pull this off and I'll come back and put the new sprocket on. I just did a cursory wipe with a little bit of carb cleaner to get some of the grime off of there. Here's the old sprocket. Doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's in good condition. You'll still see some squareness on the top. How you know your sprockets are worn out is when they're what they call shark teeth. They're really sharp at the top, but these are still, you know, a good bit of square at the top. So, and it says 45 right there. That's the number of teeth that are on the sprocket. So I'll save that if somebody ever needs a stock sprocket or this one breaks or something. But here's the new one. As I know it's a 38. Yeah, 38 right there. So, and if you overlay them, the new one is definitely noticeably smaller. So it takes fewer revolutions of the front sprocket to turn the rear sprocket one time around. So the engine RPMs will be lower and the wheels will spin more times per engine RPM. That's how it works. Chain. So here's the way you want to do it. You want to go across, right? Across, across. So you want to snug one down, snug the next one down, move over, snug, go across, move over. This is just the way I like to do it, just so it sets evenly, and when you torque it, it torques evenly. Snug. And snug. And again, I'm going to use my own German torque, which I won't show you. But you should, I recommend you getting your owner's manual or service manual and doing whatever you want to do. This is the way I'm going to do it. So I'll get it tightened up, I'll get it back in and slap it back together. Okay, remember what I said about spacers on both sides? Here's the one on the right side of the tire. I'm just going to wipe it a little bit. Back in there like that. And do want to grease my axle when I put it back in. And what I do is I sit on my bottom, put my leg on either side of the tire here. Oh yeah, you got to make sure your brake calipers are lined up too. There we go. All right. There we go. All right. I got a cramp in my neck. Whew. Cramp in the neck. Don't get old, guys. All right. Make sure. Yep. Make sure the side with the little nick is on the outside. Oops. Alright, then I'm going to use my foot to kind of lift up on the tire to line it up. Smack that forward a little bit. Alright, I got it started. I made sure both spacers are in there. Made sure the calipers are lined up. Let's see here. There you go. Alright. Success. Alright, now I just need to adjust the adjustment screws, put my castle nut back on. Well, I thought I hit record on my phone, but apparently I hit record twice and it started and stopped. But I was recording me taking 2 links off the chain to make it smaller so it would fit the smaller sprocket. So essentially what I did, and you can find videos of this all over YouTube, either get a tool called a chain breaker and snap the rivets. I just use a die grinder and I ground the rivets flat, and I used a chisel to pry the links apart. And then I bought a master link set from Amazon, and I put the master link in the the existing chain after I sized it to get to where the size that I wanted. To get the master link assembled, I took some vice grips and I squeezed until I could get the clip into the grooves of the master link. And then now I'm going to just use the needle nose pliers. You just squeeze this and it's on. And that's it. That's all there is to putting on a master link. And the reason why I had to buy master links because Kawasaki Ninja 250s, at least this one, 2001, don't have a master link on the chain. And I bought a new chain, but you know, I didn't want to. There's still life left in this chain, so I wanted to keep using it. So, all right, hope that helps someone later. This is what I learned from changing the front and rear sprocket of my Ninja 250. I changed the front sprocket from 14 to 15 teeth and the rear sprocket from 45 to 38 teeth. So for those of you who are thinking about doing it and want to know if it's worth it or what the difference will be, here is the end result. So if you look at this chart, with the green stripe, that's the original 15 and 45 teeth sprockets. The blue stripe is if you just change the front sprocket to 15, and the red stripe or the red line is when you change it from 14 to 15 in the front and 45 to 38 in the rear. And it's a significant difference. And this is if you're not into having a snappy motorcycle, but trying to squeeze more mileage or better gas mileage or a higher top end speed. If you look at the spec of a Ninja 250, it says its top speed is 105 miles an hour. But if you look at this chart based on the original gear ratio, you'd have to go 13,000 RPM in sixth gear. And that's that's assuming that the wind drag and everything is not pushing you back, and you can even make it to 13,000 RPM to get to 105 miles an hour. And also it redlines at 14,000, so you're almost at redline. And I don't know, I'm not one of those people who likes to get close to redline. I mean, I'll redline my bike once in a while if I need to, shift or pass or something like that. But in a normal situation, for just highway cruising, for this type of bike, I like to keep it around 8,000 RPM. And with the new sprocket setup, it gives me about 80 miles an hour. So one thing you have to learn, or one thing I want to tell you, is that in sixth gear with this configuration, it is, with the wind drag and stuff, it is kind of difficult to keep it at highway speed, to keep it at least at 80. Here's a picture of me going 80 miles an hour in sixth gear, and it's right at 8,000 RPM. But the problem is, that's with the throttle wide open, but the wind drag on was pushing pretty hard on me, so it was hard to get any faster. Here's a chart of the standard configuration of 14 in the front, 45 in the rear. You can pause it here and take a look at it. Here's the configuration with just the 15 changed to the 15, but leaving the 45 tooth gear in the back. And here is a composite. So I'm going gear by gear. So first gear, what I did was I took the previous charts and I basically did a trend line of the miles that I could interpolate from the chart. And so the green line
is the standard configuration of 1445. The blue line is just changing the front sprocket to 15, but leaving the back sprocket at 45. And the red line is actual data that I collected, and I'll show that video at the end of this video of me collecting the data, real actual data. And then, of course, some of the data points are interpolated. So in first gear, you can see how steep the red line is, meaning that you do get quite a substantial increase in miles per hour with the new sprocket configuration. In second gear, it's better, but you're still looking at from the original 44.5, so you're getting about 10 miles an hour difference at the top end at 11,000 RPM. Third gear was kind of weird. Third gear, based on the industry standard gear versus miles per hour, the change didn't really do much difference. If you're looking at the top end at 11,000 RPM, you're looking at 4 or 5 miles an hour difference in third gear. So third gear is kind of a weird configuration. And then fourth gear, it starts to kind of spread out again. So from 68 to top end 81. So another 10 mile an hour difference in between the original gear configuration and the new gear configuration. And then fifth gear is where you start to really diverge from the original. So top end, you're getting 80 miles an hour, and with the original configuration, and with the new configuration, you're getting theoretically 105. And then back to sixth gear, the reality is the original specified miles per hour at 8,000 RPM is about 65 miles an hour. So to get up to 80 miles an hour, or say highway speeds, even 70 miles an hour, you'd have to go about 8,500 RPM, which isn't bad. So this kind of saves you 500 RPM. It's not a lot, but you know, it's something. And then, of course, if you're trying to get to a higher speed, you know, at the high end, you're getting 20 miles an hour more at 11,000 RPM. So the practical part of the gear change is in this area here, between, say, 8,000 and then 10,000 RPM. But again, I had a hard time getting it to 9,000 RPM in sixth gear, so I had to drop it down to fifth gear. Yeah, I would have to gone 10,000 RPM to get it to 80 miles an hour. So that's the result of changing your sprocket between the 1445 configuration to the 1538 configuration. So I hope that information helps somebody. And here is the raw data of me collecting from the original configuration, and going from 0 to 50 with the original configuration, just for practical sake.
Okay, I'm gonna be changing the sprocket, the front sprocket, from 14 teeth to 15 teeth. And there's a lot of information on the internet, but it's, you know, a lot of it's calculations, and a lot of it is just single opinion. So I'm going to do a little bit more scientific review or video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each gear and get the RPMs, maybe 3 points of data between the gear, the RPM, and the speed. So I'll start like in first gear at, say, I don't know, 3,000 RPM, what that is, 4,000 RPM, and so on. And try to hold it as long as possible so I can get good data. So I'm going to point the camera mainly at the speedometer, and I'll try to also record what I see. So here we go. Okay, 10 miles an hour in first gear is 4,500 RPM. 15 miles an hour is, we'll call that 59,000 RPM, 5,900 RPM. Okay, second gear, I gotta stop here. 4.5 gives me 15 miles an hour. 4,000 seems to be easier to hold. 4,000 gives me 15 miles an hour. 5,000 gives me, we'll call that 19 miles an hour. Okay, third gear, we'll go third gear. 3,000 gives me 15 miles an hour. 4,000 gives me 19 miles an hour. 5,000 gives me 25 miles an hour in third gear. Fourth gear. Alright, fourth gear, I got 3,000 RPM. 3,000 gives me, we'll call it 19 miles an hour. Alright, okay, we'll go 4,000, see what 4,000 gives me. 4,000, yeah, it gives me 24, 25 miles an hour in fourth gear. Gives me 21 miles an hour. Fifth gear, 3,000, 21 miles an hour. 3,000 gives me 24 miles an hour. That's sixth gear. So 5,000 RPM in sixth gear gives me 40 miles an hour. 6,000 gives me 50. 6,000 gives me 49.50. We'll go 49. 6,000 gives me 49 miles an hour in sixth gear. So that's my data points. And I'm going to go calculate. So here's my starting point. I'm going to try to accelerate as fast as possible. Alright, here we go. 0 to 50. 3, 2, 1, go. 50. That's not too bad. I mean, that's pretty snappy. That's real snappy. I don't know how fast that was, but, you know, it was decent.
Here is the data, or the video of me collecting the data after I switched to both the front and back sprocket, and then also going from 0 to 60. And just for practical demonstration. So hope that helps somebody, and have a good day. Later.
First gear. Okay, now I'm going to test out second gear. You'll hear the shifter change. Second gear. Third gear. Fourth gear. 6. Okay, let's do 0 to 60. Here we go, 3, 2, 1.